Our May 2022 trip started on Saturday morning, with those intending to ride the whole way meeting in Malton, and we headed up together to join Pete Knight just outside Grantham. We then continued on our 360-mile journey up to Dumfermline, stopping off for fuel and refreshments at Scotch Corner, then again at the Anglo-Scottish border at Carter Bar to place the obligatory club sticker on the sign in what has now become an annual tradition. We then dropped down through the switchback roads to continue up to our hotel for the night in Dumfermline, with views across the Queensferry Bridge, where we met up with the rest of the group, who travelled up in vans and were just arriving as we pulled in.
Here he comes.
Strike pose.
Look at this guy. Cheers, Jim.
Cheers, boys. All of us arrived safe and in one piece, though Jimmy Two Scoots Jammers got to be first into the kilt on the opening night, after being let down by his Scamaddy that had been chosen for reliability over his trusty Lambretta SX200 from the previous year. After a meal and a few drinks, everyone got their heads down for an early start the following morning. Once the group had their bags strapped to their scooters, we got together for a group shot, then headed over the Kincardine Bridge to meet up with friends from Bonnybridge, who kindly acted as guides for the day on a tour of the local landmarks. Starting with an opportunity to visit the amazing Kelpies in Falkirk, a monument to Scotland's horse-powered heritage, opened in 2014. In Scottish folklore, Kelpies are shape-shifting water creatures that appear as horses on land, enticing human victims onto their backs before carrying them to a watery grave. After this photo opportunity, we saddled up and headed across the short distance to the incredible feat of engineering, the Falkirk Wheel. This rotating boat lift connects the Union Canal with the Forth and Clyde Canal by raising boats up 24 metres to an aqueduct, and then leading to two further locks which take passengers up another 11 metres. This is the only rotating boat lift in the world and was opened in 2002. After seeing the wheel in action, we headed on to photo opportunities at the picturesque Stirling Castle, and then on to the Wallace Monument, which is stood over the fields where William Wallace led his troops to victory at the Battle of Stirling Bridge.
Okay, everybody, and we've been to see the Kelpies, the Falkirk Wheel, and we've now made it to Calendar for 11s, but it's been a long old couple of days. Day 2, I've already had to resort to this.
We took an opportunity to visit the beautiful Falls of Dockart at Kyleakin, an amazing natural phenomenon where the Dockart River runs across a ridge of hard rock.
What, son?
Alright, son.
Don't you fall over?
And a big thanks is already going out to Fat Jesus, who's driving the backup van for us this week. I've never known a trip like it so far. It's been incident after incident. Phil's just had a puncture, so Dean's just had to drive back towards Calendar to make sure he's okay. And from the back of the van, Fat Jesus is also running a tuck shop for us. Well done, Dean. Not all heroes wear capes. On a more positive note, Jimmy Jammers has had a right result. He's left his broken down Scamaddy back in Dumfermline and had arranged through a mutual friend of ours to have a substitute scooter drafted in and dropped off for him at Calendar, which he's just picked up. So Jimmy Jammers rides again. Or should that now be Jimmy Two Scoots rides again? And a big thanks to Gary Linen of Blainfield for the offer of his Vespa GS for the week.
After stretching our legs, we got back onto the bikes and headed up to the famous Green Welly stop for lunch.
In there with his drone, getting a few aerial shots. You can't get away with anything in this trip. And I did do a bit of checking, wondering where the Green Welly stop name came from. Seems back in the 60s they started selling green wellies and barber jackets, and as they are all green, that's where the name came from, and it stuck, so they rebranded it to the Green Welly stop. Really nice place to get all your knick-knack souvenirs, even a few good pies.
And after a lovely traditional hot Scotch pie at the famous Green Welly stop, we all left and headed north on the A82, the next stop being Loch Tula viewpoint. Martin was there to capture us with his drone on arrival. This was the first of many spectacular, stunning Highland views.
This was our first stop-off point in the Highlands, and the stunning view was a taster of what we were going to experience for the rest of the week. The next section along the A82, which takes us through the Glencoe Valley, is renowned for being one of the best driving roads in the UK, and it's easy to see why. We stopped at Glencoe Mountains Ski Resort to take some pictures of the scooters with Glencoe Valley in the background. A fantastic road to ride, and it leads us to our next stop-off point, which is the Glencoe waterfall. This was a quick stop for some photos, and here is a great group shot.
It's been a great first day in the saddle, 140 miles under our belt, and here we are heading across the Bealach Bridge, just a stone's throw away from our digs for the night, in the lovely resort of Fort William.
We've arrived at our hotel for the night, the Caledonian Hotel on the outskirts of Fort William, which looks out over Loch Linney. The Caledonian is reasonably priced, and we've got an evening meal included, so we don't have to go anywhere tonight other than the restaurant and the bar. The hotel is popular with coach parties that are touring the Highlands, and would you credit it, we bumped into a coachload of old folk from Northamptonshire who were up here to explore the lochs and the glens. We've had another setback late this afternoon. The second Scamaddy has started to play up. That's the group taking a look at her down there. Fingers crossed she's going to be okay.
We had a comfy night's stay at the Caledonian Hotel, so up bright and early to look forward to the 92 miles on day 2, with some interesting stops along the way.
Our first stop this morning was just on the outskirts of Fort William at the old Inverloch Castle. Unfortunately, we couldn't go inside because they were doing some renovation work. But there's a photo of Gary Capps on his GTS. That's Sue and Bruce on their Vespa PX200. And that's Pete Knight on his Royal Alloy.
5 miles down the road, we managed to capture 2 birds with one stone. On one side, Neptune Staircase, a section of locks on the Caledonian Canal. And on the other side, the Banavie railway station, where we saw the Jacobite steam train coming through. You may recognise this as the train which features in the Harry Potter movie.
Right, so we're taking the beautiful scenic single track B road from Banavie station up towards the Commando Memorial now. Bit of drizzle in the air, but we're not letting that dampen our spirits. Yeah, we've arrived at the Commando Memorial. Not doing too well this morning because unfortunately Commando Memorial is under construction as well. Right, so Commando Memorial, we've had a good look round for a few minutes. We've paid our respects and just time for a group photo before we make our way off to Invergary Castle. We've arrived at Invergary Castle and we appear to have caught Sue just starting her daily warm-up exercises. Two dodgy looking characters there, not quite sure who they are. Matt in the camo and James in the St George helmet.
Couple of lovebirds there, Sue and Bruce, bless them. Right, so just a few minutes up the road from Invergarry Castle, we've all arrived at the beautiful picturesque village of Fort Augustus, which is of course the gateway to Loch Ness. Let's see if we can find some food.
Martin, just seen in here, soup and a roll, £3 odd.
Right, we found some chips. There's Matt and Pete, just tucking in. Oh look, there's Fat Jesus, found a new girlfriend. A quick splash and dash now at the Fort Augustus filling station before we all head off on the afternoon's ride to Invermorriston Falls, Loch Cluanie viewpoint, and then off to Eileen Donnan Castle, finishing up at the Fairy Tale Gin Distillery. Can't wait for that.
The Invermorriston Falls are about a third of the way along Loch Ness, beside the 1813 Thomas Telford Bridge, where the A82 crosses over the River Morriston. About 100 yards from the car park is this wonderful little bothy that is ideally situated for a spectacular view of the falls. If you happen to be here at the right time of season, this is a great place to spot leaping salmon. We're going to start heading west when we leave Invermorriston along the A887, which links up with the A87. We stopped off for a leg stretcher at the Loch Cluanie viewpoint. This is Loch Cluanie looking down to the east, and this is Loch Cluanie looking towards the west end. We're going to continue now along the A87, one of General Wade's old military roads. The views and the scenery are simply breathtaking. And the next stop off is at one of Scotland's most photographed landmarks. It's the Eileen Donnan Castle.
That bloody wind's coming round there.
From the James Bond film, The World Is Not Enough.
That's Jimmy Two Scoots' newfound love, the Vespa GS. And here's a shot of Andy, Darren and Phil. Here's one for the NVLSC album with Eileen Donnan in the background. We left the castle and crossed over the Loch Long Bridge near Dorney. Then it was a quick left-hand turn into Ardelve to visit our old friend Thomas at the Fairy Tale Gin Distillery. And what a back garden to have. Wacky buildings, a pond and some stunning views, with the added bonus of a gin distillery on site. Thomas showed us around the copper distilling vats and offered us samples of his award-winning gins. And those that needed it made use of the wee room before we were on our way. Stopping for fuel at the Kyleakin garage before crossing the Skye Bridge. Our home for the night was at Saucy Mary's bunkhouse in the picturesque village of Kyleakin. Jim Jammers and Matty Boy took a stroll around the back end of the village, whilst Terry took a walk up to the head of Loch Elsh. The evening was spent in the King Harcon bar, where we were all fed and watered. Capo's had another great day, and the master, Farmer Pete, gave us all a lesson on the pool table. There's Jimmy Two Scoots, just enjoying the ambience of the evening, 530 miles away from home, as we watched the sun slowly go down in the west, beyond the Sky Bridge. Good morning from Kyleakin on the Isle of Skye. And here's a couple of photos from around the village. That's the old ancient remains of Castle Moyle. And luckily for us, we woke up this morning and the Sky Bridge is still standing. And just to give you some perspective of actually how high the bridge is, that's the Kyle Lighthouse below. Our first leg of the day is to go back over the Sky Bridge, heading easterly through the Kyle Loch Elsh before turning north towards Loch Carron, around the head of the loch before Elevens is in the village. Then it's the big one, the Bealach Nabar. We've made it to our first stop of the day and the weather's looking good at the Loch Carron viewpoint. This is Jim with a chap called Kai, who's a solo biker from Germany that we met last night in the pub. He's joined up with us for this morning's ride. There's a group photo there taken by Kai, so for a change we've actually got all 14 of us in on the same shot. And what a photo, what a stunning view looking out and over Loch Carron. Fantastic. So we've made good time around the head of Loch Carron and through the tiny settlement of Strathcarron. And on day 3, we've now made it onto the official route of the North Coast 500. So it's just a 10-minute leg stretcher in the village of Loch Carron for a snack and to fill up on fuel. We're just about to head up on the single track roads into the foothills of Ardrock. We've had a trouble-free morning so far and have arrived at the Tornapress Junction. This is where we turn left off the A896 to take on the Applecross Pass. Photo of Bruce and Sue there at the Tornapress signpost. I've done a bit of research for you about this route. It's an unclassified road and is known as both the Applecross Pass or the Bealach Nabar. The name Bealach na Bar comes from the Scottish Gaelic language and it translates to the Pass of the Cattle. The route dates back to the early 1800s when it was historically used as a drover's route to get sheep and cows over the Applecross Peninsula. The original road was just made up of rough gravel and was very difficult to clear in the winter. This meant it could be blocked for weeks on end, until in 1950 when it was totally paved over and tarmacked. This road is accredited as being the greatest ascent of any road climb in the UK, rising from sea level at Tornapress or Applecross up to 626 metres or 2,054 feet at the summit. Anyway, we've got an NVLSC sticker onto one of the signs for the 4th year running and the group are all raring to go. We're not here to talk about the Bealach na Bar all day, we're here to ride it.
Here I am at the top of the Bealach na Bar, well, nearly at the top. First major hairpin. Steve's just above me, doing a bit more videoing. Smell that two-stroke. Here comes Mr. Martin Peacock, gunning it. Go on. And there's Phil on his trusty lammy. Go on, mate. Sue and Bruce, Anna, Darren, Terry and Matt. No, that was Capo, Andy, Kyle. There's Matty Boy and Pete. Go on, lads. Bunch of grebos chasing them. And here comes Dino in the van, in the backup van. Trying to burn his clutch out, bless him. Get round there. 3 wheels. Go on, Fat Jesus. Put off that brake.
So we all made it to the top, no trouble at all for the scooters, but Fat Jesus is a little bit concerned about the engine temperature on his Transit, so he's got the bonnet up just to let it cool down a little bit for a few moments while we get our snaps. After a brief stop in the village of Applecross, we started to make our way around the Wester Ross Coastal Trail. 25 miles of single track roads that hug the coastline. And this is an ideal route to take if you want to see free roaming Highland coos. We've made it to Torridon village for lunch. Some refreshments and a well-earned rest. Although it's disaster for Jimmy Jammers again. The substitute scooter he'd borrowed from Blainfield Gary, he's only gone and broke it. After some roadside investigatory surgery, we've found the problem. A broken clutch pinion. I'm afraid it's going to be the kilt again for you tonight, Jimmy Two Scoots. So we say goodbye to Torridon and Westeros for another year. I've got to say it's one of my favourite riding areas from anywhere in the UK. So we will be back. So after refuelling at Kyleakin, we head up the A832 alongside Loch Murray. And those that started the ride up from Northampton on Saturday morning have now clocked up a staggering 650 miles so far on this trip. We've pulled in to have a look at the Victoria Falls, which are hidden away in Slatterdale Forest. The parking area is about 100 yards off the A832, and then it's about a 50-yard walk to the purpose-built viewing platform, which offers great views of the bottom 3 sections of the falls, and out over to Loch Murray behind you. If you want to see the top section of the Victoria Falls, then it's well worth a wander up to take a closer look. We're approaching the end of day 3 now. It's just 7 miles through Kerrisdale and onto the 2 final viewpoints that are both worth a look at Gairloch. The first one offers this great view of the beach and across the inner sound from the Gairloch beach viewpoint on the south side of Gairloch. Then 3 miles up the road, on the north side of the village, is the elevated other Gairloch viewpoint. That's a nice shot of Pete's Royal Alloy, and I think we've just timed this right. The weather has just taken a turn for the worse, so it's just as well that we only have 5 miles to go to reach our hotel for the night in the next village of Poolewe.
Right, we've made it to Poolewe Hotel, and a few running repairs along the way. Phil's front wheel got a few problems. Oh look, there's Terry. Terry's Lammy. That'll teach him to do a bit of off-roading, cutting corners. Just chilling back with a beer now. I think Gary Cap's got stitched up this afternoon. Somebody mentioned that his back tyre looked a bit flat. Unassumingly, he borrowed the compressor from the back of the van without thinking, and ended up with a kilt forfeit. I'm still in the kilt because I'm still got a broken scooter.
Let the wind blow high, let the wind blow low, through the streets in my kilt I'll go. All the lassies say hello, Donald, where's your trousers? To wear the kilt is my delight. It is not wrong, I know it's right. The islanders would get a fright if they saw me in the trousers. The wind blow high, let the wind blow low, through the streets in my kilt I'll go. All the lassies say hello, Donald, where's your trousers? Donald, where's your trousers?
Thanks for watching, and that concludes the first half of our week in Scotland. We've seen waterfalls, we've seen the Jacobite Harry Potter steam train, we've done the Sky Bridge, we've done the Bealach Bar. We've had experiences and laughs along the way during an instant-packed 3 days. With 2 autos down, and Jimmy Two Scoots has now broken the substitute Vespa. Make sure you click on to watch part 2, the second half of our week. The most serious incident is yet to come.
Discretion.